All right, what's good? What's good? Um, this today's subject, or the subject that I want to talk about right now, is kind of how I choose my projects that I work on. Um, Currently, in between projects, and I just finished a comic book script, and I have supposed to have a book that I should have been writing by now, a screenplay that I should have been writing, and a short screenplay that I should have been writing. And I just have the way I look at it is I try to choose my projects based on how I feel and my motivation, right? I just came from a meeting. My motivation towards it, or inspiration, but I really can't go by that because I got a lot of inspirations from different for all of my ideas, right? Sometimes a little bit more than others. Like if I see a movie coming out, or somebody wrote a book and it's really like my book, I feel a little urgency to get my story out there that I think is comparable to that. Like if somebody succeeds in really bringing back a certain genre, and I'm like, oh man, I got a story just like that genre. That may be a little bit, put a little urgency in there in getting my story out. Opportunities definitely affect my story selection. So if there's an opportunity that crops up that, gives me an opportunity for one of my stories that I haven't written, I will get it out. Now, the downside, I don't know if it's a downside or an upside. One of the aspects of being a independent filmmaker and independent writer, published writer for comic books and books, is that every story I write, within a month, I can get it out. So what happens is I have no backstories. I have no stories, things that are not being worked on, that are not out to the public. Yes, when I write a screenplay, it takes a little bit of time to get it produced and edited, and there's a production process. Books take time to write. Comic books, I have to write it, and then I have to get an illustrator. So there's time in regards to that. You know what I'm saying? But except with film, right? Film, because I haven't really. I'll independently make it, but I don't independently distribute it. So with my films, I do everything up until it's time to be released to the market, on the marketplace, and then I get a distributor. So that's how it works, and then the distributor sets up the relationships with the marketplace, whether they're the retail outlets. So those are time frames are still a little different, but at least I have one film that's coming out later this month, The Death Pledge, and then I have another film that's in the can, and I've started doing festival applications for that. I started doing submissions for distributors, so that process is already there and it's already done. It's like if I was a published author, or I was seeking to get published by a publisher, then there's submissions, and that can take a long time. So I don't really have any books that are finished that I'm submitting to get published, because after I write them, I get them and edited, I get them out to the market. My comic books right now is the same way. All of my comic books, and I'm just getting back into it. My Medea comic strip was the first new comic story that I wrote maybe in 8 years, 9 years. Last year I got out my third comic book, which was a collection of all of my other stories, and I started looking in some of my stories that I had not finished, and so I was like, all right, you know what, I got enough for a half a book, so if I can write a little bit more, I'll do another book. And so I'm working towards that now, but the challenge is paying for illustrators. And I don't know, I want to say something about illustrators, but this is in the middle of another blog, so I figured maybe I'll either blog about it or make a Facebook or Instagram post and get it out there, or maybe even say something at a convention. But right now, that's how I've been working, and I'm just sort of putting together how I'm going to select my next project. And I have an outline of a screenplay, a short story, and I have a outline of a book. Actually, I'm on the first chapter, but I stopped, and I'm first chapter on 2 different books. One is a novella, and the other one is a full-out book, and I'm only on the first 2. I have not finished them, and I don't know what to do. So my screenplay, all of my screenplays, short screenplays, are done, but I'm working on the outline of this short screenplay, and then I have to adapt one of my short stories to a screenplay, and then that will become another larger feature film screenplay. And I actually wanted to shoot that myself. I actually wanted to shoot it last month. I don't know what got in the way, but opportunities arise, things get pushed back, and my contention and my comfort is that every day I'm doing something that advances this, even if it's just reading and keeping up with the market, because that is important as well. So if I'm not writing or working on a project, I'm also reading and staying abreast of what's going on, because as a independent person, I don't have the luxury of having a publishing company or film company keeping up to date with what's going on. And I still tell people, if you're independent, right, you still have to stay abreast of the marketplace. You're not necessarily competition, but other products that are being produced in the same I think there's a train up front, that are being produced in the same area. Whether if it's the post-apocalypse that you write in, then you need to know all of the different post-apocalypse books. Now, does that matter if you're one hit, and you really successful, or you really successful in your own genre? Maybe not, but I know it won't hurt, right? You don't necessarily have to read everybody's book, but understand that your book, when it comes out, or your film or your comic book, when it comes to publishers or to the marketplace, people are going to say, oh, that's like this. Oh, that's different from that. And they're going to compare it. Whether they say it's better or not, they're still going to compare it to what it's like. So as a creator, you need to know that at any stage. For me, I'm a commercial creator. I'm not a commercial. The commercial element doesn't necessarily drive the ideas that I come out with, and I've been trying to do that with a fantasy story for the longest, because I think fantasy is a really hot genre. But my stories aren't created and inspired by the commercial elements, but they are tailored to the commercial elements, right? So I have a secret agent story, right? But it's not because secret agent stories are hot that I thought of it. it's because I had a secret agent story. Now I'm looking at other secret agent stories that are out in the television and in film, and I am just checking them out to see how my character is going to be placed in the marketplace. Who is it going to be more like? Or is it going to be a lot of action? Is it going to have whatever? So, who is it probably going to say that it was inspired by? So that's how I let the commercial market influence me. After my ideas have come out, that's how I let them influence me. Whereas another way to do it is for the marketplace to dictate, what you're going to do. Now, if vampires are hot, now you're going to think of a vampire story and you're going to write it. I don't necessarily think of that stuff that way, mostly because I got so many stories already. It's ridiculous. And different types of stories. So I'm not driven in that direction. The other thing is, I guess what impacts me to get things out, I guess, is opportunities. Not necessarily people are buying this, but because it's an accident up ahead. Not because people are I guess buying it, but more so because there is an active lane of opportunity, and I've seen that there's nobody really writing in this area, and I want to stand out. So doing a story different than how the other stories have been in this market or subgenre is definitely something interesting to me. So like Harlem Shake, I didn't see many black post-apocalyptic stories. I didn't see too many black disaster stories. And that genre is still alive and is very well live and kicking. So that's why I pursued the Harlem Shake post-apocalyptic world. So that's it. So I don't know. I this is what I talk about in my head. What am I gonna do next? I mean, sure, I got the 4th Harlem Shake book that I could write. I got these screenplays, these comic books, and so what I did was take yesterday off, and I read a little bit of the marketplace. I read N.K. Jamison's Far Sector for the Green Lantern. I read post-apocalyptic book Undiscovered America, I think it is. I'm not sure. And there's a Star Wars story called Dark Fate. This has a black character as a lead. I'm checking that out. I have got pretty much all of the books in the Blade Runner series. So I've been checking that out. I have that to read. So comic books mostly. I have a Secret Agent novel that I got bored with, and I can pick that back up and read that. So it's a lot. I also want to watch the movie Valerian, to get some ideas and inspirations for possibly adapting my story, space story, that I was in writing, intending it to be a book, to possibly a comic book. So I'm getting some ideas from Valerian because I like that universe. I like the way they portray the universe, or at least it seems like it, But anyway, that's it. So yeah, how do you get your ideas? Where you get your ideas from? So remember, if you like my vibe, like and subscribe. That's a corny one, but I think I said that before. Peace.